Sky Sports Halo, the WSL rebrand, the whole GK Barry situation. On the surface, this looks like separate controversies. But when you zoom out, it's the same storyline repeating itself. Women's sports keeps getting marketed to an imaginary fan instead of the one who's actually watching the game. And honestly, fans like myself are tired. If you're into women's football, women's sports, fan behavior, sports sociology, or you're just tired of brands packaging the game into pink glitter and calling it inclusion, hit subscribe. So let's get into it. So let's look at Sky Sports Halo, a TikTok channel supposedly made for women sports fans. They announced it with the dreaded words such as fun, relatable, trend-led, with sport, fashion and lifestyle at the center. In theory, there's actually nothing wrong with lifestyle content, may I just add real quick. You know, I love a match day fit. I love to see how the girls put it on before a game. I get it, right? But the way it was positioned felt like they were saying, women won't come for football unless we make it cute. Women won't come for football unless we talk about matcha, unless we make it glittery, unless we make it pink. Women just won't understand or comprehend anything unless we tie it to something very trendy. And that specific framing is where it all fell apart, literally within a matter of days. You had people arguing on LinkedIn over it. You had people in their comments literally telling them, hey, what's going on here? And in the early days, the moderator was a little bit sassy, may I add. The moderator for the Sky Sports Halo page was literally telling people you better deal with it. And I was kind of like, oh, are you sure that's the way you want to go? And then moving to not that many days later and the page being shut down with a statement released and saying that they're going to go back to the drawing board. Halo immediately got called out because it assumed that women need football to be diluted to be included. Like we need to talk about a hot girl walk with matcha before we could talk about tactics, or a get ready with me before a breakdown on transitions. It's that soft packaging that is insulting to fans like myself. It's not the content categories themselves. You're telling millions of women who enjoy watching the sport or who've played football, coached it, or watched it religiously that they need a baby pink stepping stone to understand and enjoy the sport. It reinforced this legacy idea that men are the default fans and women, on the other hand, are the newcomers, which is wild because considering half the people that are screaming at refs and arguing over midfield control at WSL games are women. Like I go to a WSL game and it's mostly women in the stands. I don't see a lot of men there. So a bit odd. I think this whole situation, I was kind of questioning, how did we get here? A team in a corporate setting get to that stage of pretty much girl bossing a sport and infantilizing viewers and their audience. How did we get here? When you look at the real culture that's brewing within women's football, especially in the UK and Europe, you kind of say to yourself, okay, this is actually a serious sport. It's gaining traction in a way that maybe they didn't really anticipate. But you do have to start adapting to your audience rather than assuming that they are one way when they're not. The evidence clearly shows you that they're not. And that's why this feels so tone deaf, the Halo situation. Now, I also want to talk about the WSL rebrand because I feel like this was one of the more earlier examples. And this is when the league tried to position itself into a movement with cool aspirational messaging. But visually, the branding really came off as soft and family first. Nothing wrong with family first. Please don't start in the comments. There's nothing wrong with being family first. But I think because it was packaged against being soft and almost too clean, fans like myself felt like it didn't really reflect the actual match day experience within the league. It's like, in my opinion, the branding was kind of trying to sell like children's TV instead of an elite national competition. When we look at the Premier League logo and the WSL logo, the Premier League looks very much like, hey, we're here to have an elite competition that runs for a number of months and is highly anticipated, and there will be a winner, hence the word Premier League. The WSL Women's Super League has a strong name. I don't fault the name. I just fault the vibe that the colours and the branding lends itself to. It doesn't give me elite national competition. So let's fast forward now. The GK Barry situation was different, and I'm not here to get into the gossip of it all, right? And the social media, I guess, wave of commentary around it necessarily, because I feel like it exposed the same fault. Brands keep using women's football as a personality-led growth hack instead of treating it like a sport in a cultural ecosystem that needs care. That controversy wasn't just about her, I don't think. This controversy happened pretty much just after the Halo situation. So I feel like it's really about how these media platforms latch onto influencers who don't reflect the culture of the game. And that's what I think fans like myself are really reacting to. The feeling that the sport is being treated like a content niche and not a community. And when something goes wrong, it's the fans who pay the cultural price. And I feel like all of these three situations have been constantly setting us back in terms of where the game could be growing into, because we end up having these conversations that don't focus on the league, focus on the teams. We're currently in international break for the WSL, for example, and we haven't spent time talking about team standings. We've spent time arguing with media platforms and brands around what actually works when you go off and market to the fans. It would have been great for us to talk about, any key standout matches from this season so far, any key standings between this season and last season. That would be nice, right? But we've spent so much time trying to understand why brands are completely always misleading and not hearing the fan for who they are. And across all three moments, you see the same marketing comfort zone. Soften it, simplify it, lifestyle it, make it cute. Add pink and sparkles and matcha. I'm sorry, I keep mentioning sparkles and matcha. There's this TikTok, I'm going to insert it right now, that has been cracking me up and I couldn't wait to include it in this video. So here you go. So these are essentially gendered marketing habits from the 2000s. It assumes that women need a soft color palette, a lifestyle angle, a friendly narrator. Meanwhile, real fans are like, we're here for the football, why'd you keep acting like we're nervous? The intensity, the competition, the tension, the tactical discourse. That's what makes women's football culture rich. But marketers keep packaging us as passive consumers instead of actual supporters. For decades, sports culture centered men as the default fan. So when women show up, marketing treats us like a side category. The newbies, the casuals, the family ticket, right? It's easy in this sense. It's easy when you always assume that the default fan is the men and they are the authentic fan, when there are so many different fan archetypes now in comparison to what it was in the early days of sport culture. The feminization of football fandom is real, but it's not really documented as well as it could be. However, women's football has a legacy of fans who have been there longer than some men's sides have ever existed. So when a brand says, we've made a little sister channel, of course it's gonna trigger some people, because it's not just a branding decision here. It's a reminder of how the sport still treats women as guests in their own house. Now, what do we think the solution is here? I don't think the solution is to make a separate girl-coded page. I feel like that just needs to go in the bin completely. The solution is to put women on the main Sky channels. We already have the Sky Sports WSL channel, and I think that does really well on its own because it's basically almost like a branch of the Sky Sports media arm, and the way that the content is produced on that channel is not in the corner like an afterthought in the way that Halo, for example, was created. I just think women's football doesn't need a side platform. It absolutely doesn't need one. It needs presence on the platforms with the audience. Integration tells fans that yes, You belong in the sport. However, heavy segregation, like doing the Sky Sports Halo, also tells fans that we've built this space because the main one isn't for you, which is exactly the problem here. And don't get it twisted, I'm not saying that we need to scrap the WSL page and only use the Sky Sports football or Sky Sports page in general. No, because I recognize that there's the Sky Sports page and then it branches out into the Prem, into this, into that, and depending on the sport, it will have its own dedicated page. And then there sometimes might be crossover or collaboration. But I feel like you need to create a space that doesn't feel completely separate to how the other pages are positioned. If you want to grow the women's game, respect the intelligence and the presence of fans who are already here. Give us analysis, give us storytelling, give us proper coverage. Let the game be chaotic, emotional, elite, competitive, because that's what it is. Women's football doesn't need glitter and pink text. It needs investment and respect. So if you're ready for more conversations like this, hit the subscribe button and let me know in the comments below what you thought of the WSL rebrand, the GK Barry situation, and the Sky Sports Halo situation as well. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.